Public hearing of City Council for Monday, September 11th, 2023 to order. First order of business, corporate officer to read aloud the notice of the public hearing. And welcome, Tab. And over
Thank
to
you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so this public hearing is being held to hear from anyone that may be affected by the proposed amendments to the city zoning bylaw. Zoning Amendment 23-05, Bylaw 4569-2023, proposes to amend the definition of emergency shelter to remove the text that indicates it is exclusively in the C2 General Commercial Zone. If the definition amendment is approved, the location of emergency shelters would need to be approved by a means of a temporary use permit, which would require public engagement and consultation. The amendment proposed to the definition is as follows. Emergency shelter means the use of a building operated by government agencies, nonprofit organizations, or faith-based organizations exclusively in the C2 General Commercial Zone for the provision of temporary accommodation of one or more individuals for the purpose of providing emergency and support services. There were no comments received in opposition of the redesignation, and one written response was received asking if the proposed amendment applied to shelter for those displaced by wildfires. Staff has provided a report attached to the public hearing agenda that explains that the proposed amendment does not apply to those affected by wildfires.
Thank you, Tab.
You're welcome.
And was there any correspondence or delegations? No? Okay. I'll call 3 times for comments. So I'm calling once for comments. Twice for comments. And 3 times for comments. No. Hearing no comments, I'll close the public hearing. Next, I'd like to call a regular meeting of City Council for Monday, September 11th, 2023 to order. Our first order of business is delegations. So 2.1, we have Paul Javetkoff, Dawson Creek Athletics Association, Jack Walsh, Dawson Creek Golf Course, and Mason Grunwald, is that right? Director of Golf and PGA Canada Professional, in attendance regarding the permissive tax exemption application. Before they start, there was a late presentation handout that was submitted to council, so I just need a motion to accept that from council. Councillor McDonald, do I have a second? Councillor Apolonio, any discussion? No? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. We will just hand this out and then welcome, Paul and Mason and Jack. So it's nice to see you back in here and keeping me on my toes as usual, Paul. Thank you. Yeah, the floor is your guys' if you'd like to come up. So. Just push the button, Jack, and it should turn on. Oh, there we go.
Look at that.
Welcome.
Oh. Good morning, everyone. As Darcy already introduced us all, I am the new general manager of the Dawson Creek Golf Course. So we thought we'd come in and present with the DCA on what we do and bring you up to speed on what we're doing at the golf course. So just a quick snapshot of our operation. Right now, we have 358 adult members, 87 junior members, that get to play the course for $120 for the entire year. That's their cost. And that's up to age 19. Plus, we have now set up a fund for underprivileged youth that can't afford to play. We had 7 Special Olympic athletes play this year that we never had before on the course, so that was outstanding to see them out. We employ approximately 45 to 50 staff in our peak time, with 5 being full-time all year round and another 10 permanent part-time. Our payroll exceeds $350,000 a year, and we had approximately 7,500 rounds of golf played this year. Clarification on membership. It is not a private course. It's open to all the public. We sell memberships just so you can lower the cost of golf when you go play. If you play lots, the membership just lowers the cost of golf. So it's not an exclusive club. It's open to all public from everyone around the area. So with that, we were happy to have hosted Parks and Rec's first week-long golf camp this year. And with that, we've also hosted several tournaments that brought golfers in from Chetwynd, Fort St. John, Grand Prairie, Taylor, Tumber Ridge. And a side note this year, we're really proud. We had 124 ladies playing our Queens of the Green golf tournament, which is outstanding. Within these tournaments, several local charities and organizations are the benefit of them, not only with monetary, but also recruitment opportunities and a chance to showcase what they do in our community. Plus, there's a fairly substantial spin-off for our local economy. Just in the last couple of years, Dawson Creek Sportsman Club, CDC, Special Olympics, YBC Bowling, Junior Senior Canucks, or I guess Kodiaks again, Curling Club, and Dawson Creek Volleyball and Junior Golf were benefits of all these tournaments that we ran just this year. Our food and beverage department had a very busy year with all sorts of events hosted over and above normal golf functions, weddings, AGMs, couple celebrations of life. We had a wake. We had the course closed for 24 hours so they could sit with the body, so it was quite a different event for us to host, but we did have one. Our fall and winter bookings are off to a very good start, and we can't wait for everyone to see the long overdue upgrades currently being done on the front entrance, which should be completed by the first week of October. If anyone has driven by, you've probably seen we've had a bunch of stuff going on there, refurbishing the front. Without the partnership with the DCA, this project wouldn't have got done because, of course, we couldn't have done that ourselves. We had a major upgrade to our maintenance grounds this year. We actually had water brought into the maintenance area. You'd think at a golf course we'd have water, but we didn't. Now we have a washroom, and that, again, was done to the DCA at no cost to the city. In the last 2 years, we've had to replace our rough mower, $102,000, our leaf grass blower for $7,500, irrigation pump for $40,000, and another $20,000 on an aerator. Again, no cost to the city budget. Looking forward, we are planning to upgrade the driving range, as I've heard from some council members and community members believe it's an eyesore, and we agree. We are currently looking into grants and searching for funds for our portion of this project. It could cost us upwards over $150,000 to replace the driving netting, the poles, and all that stuff. So I'm busy right now working on that to see if we can get that done, and hopefully before the start of next year, we'll have the driving range fully enclosed and looking a lot nicer. With just what I mentioned, so far I feel we should qualify for the full 100% exemption. But going to switch gears now, we consider it some exciting news. I have confirmed, as of last week, with Special Olympics Dawson Creek on using our driving range for a snowshoeing race course and a long distance events for not only Dawson Creek, but to host regional events with the Special Olympics. They are really excited about this opportunity, and so are we. So that's something basically our driving range, they'll have a course set up down the middle, and on the inside the netting, it can be kind of a closed course for them to do about a half kilometer, and depends how many races they do and stuff like that. Which again, with that, I'll be able to offer that to the schools, Parks and Rec, on just that one area for the snowshoe race or whatever. But with that, I also was in talks, and I have confirmed again with a group led by one of our local ladies here in town. We are going to be setting up the entire course as a snowshoe area. So the golf course is about 12 kilometers if you're going to walk around it. So what we are going to do is, if you go from hole 10 up around, come back hole 12, that's kind of a little loop. We might call that the clubhouse loop. Take the entire course. That might be the Mile Zero Trail. We have a bunch of other names because we can make up to 10 different routes inside the course. And we're excited to do that. We have them working now on putting in kilometer posts. We're getting a map done up so they can track it and see where everything will be. We are planning on running our pro shop, which we currently use as golf operations, as a snowshoe operation on Saturdays and Sundays, where we'll be able to rent snowshoes, trail fee. Again, it's all going to be it's a work in progress for sure, but we'll be open, and we'll be trying that. It's the first time ever going through. The big concern for us on that is we have a big investment in our greens. So we will put the trails, mark the trails, and then we have to figure out some way that no one is on our greens, because we can't afford $100,000 to replace a green because we had snowshoers going across it, or, stuff like that. So we have a plan in place for that. Maybe be working with a couple other businesses in town and see what we can figure out for that. But that's where we're set on that. We're anticipating keeping the food and beverage open during the set hours while we have the pro shop open, but we're also open all year round for different events, from AGMs and all kinds of sorts of business meetings that we're planning on hosting there. Our Christmas season is fairly busy. Again, I'm working with the Special O and their resources, because they have 24 pairs of snowshoes, because currently the golf course doesn't own snowshoes, so we're trying to figure out how we're going to put this program in place, but we'll have it done. So that's about what we have from the Dawson Creek course. So in closing, myself and the board and all the members feel the course should be 100% exempt from taxes, so we can continue to offer a first-class facility to Dawson Creek residents and our surrounding area. And we welcome everyone to please come out and check it. If you want to go for a tour of the golf course, I'm there every day. We're more than welcome to take you around the course, especially if you want to see how I'm going to have the new snowshoe facility set up, and see if we can go from there. We have lots of great ideas for running different things for programs. Someone came to me and said we're going to do called a Stomp and Chomp. So it'll be a Friday night, go for a kilometer walk, and then come in and have a good meal after. So just something different. Instead of the 9 and dine for golf, we're just switching it to the winter and see how we can do. So there's lots of other events we can support that's going on in town, and will just be another venue that we're there. So if you have any questions.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Jack and Paul and Mason. Before I open up, I just want to thank you for coming in and giving your presentation, but also, just a thank you to, the board of the golf course, the team, and the DCAA for what you guys do. And it's sure nice to hear and see these changes that are happening. And so it's just great to hear and great to see. So. And especially bringing youth and Special O and just, a whole new element, which, hasn't necessarily been out there. So thank you. But I'll open it up if council has any questions. Councillor Parslow, you do have to push your button.
No question. You still have to, we have to.
Yeah, after. There you go.
No question. Just have to say I'm delighted with what you just shared with us. That's something I've often hoped for, because I've been where I've lived many years ago. Golf courses were used in the winter for different things, but you're so right about the greens have to be protected somehow. So yes, I just have to make a statement, if I may, at this time. Occasionally, I say something that is not quite right, and a neighbour, a person who I have a high regard for, told me that I made a statement at one council meeting that was, I think we were talking about permissive tax exemptions or something, but the fact is that the golf course, really there's 3 properties that are listed, and I said one of them, which is where the driving range is, had been given by the city to the Dawson Creek Athletic Association, and that was not really quite accurate. The piece of land came up for sale. The city bought it. It was transferred to the Dawson Creek Athletic Association, who paid, this is the part I didn't know, who paid the city back for what the city had paid for it. So I said it had been donated. It was purchased and then transferred upon receipt of the $28,000. So that is just a factual error. Probably the only error I'll make this year.
Like I'm noting this down as the first error.
But I appreciate when people are actually listening to what's being said, and extend the courtesy of correcting. These guys make lots of mistakes which don't get challenged, so I'm looking forward to them being challenged. But thanks for that presentation, because it is totally in line with aspirations I I've had, I'm sure the community is going to be developed in its snowshoeing capacity through that provision. The other thing I like about the golf course is its proximity to the Mile Zero Park facility and, of course, the Rotary Trail. And maybe that's another story for another time about how those can be better integrated. Thank you.
We did talk on that too. So I just had one other point there, Charlie, with your, thank you very much for that. The DCA did buy that land, and then the Dawson Creek Golf Course has bought the driving range from the DCAA. So when I was talking on the driving range, that's one of our major projects we want to do. Because we have purchased that, we can apply for a grant on our behalf, not just going through the DCA. So it's kind of different because it is two different entities on that. So we're working on some grants there, so.
Thanks, Jack. Paul, did you want to?
Yeah, can I take a minute to read? I've agonized over this presentation for the last week.
I don't know. I think we wanted you to wait a little bit longer.
I should be able to read it. It's very brief anyways, but so the golf course is one of the most important sports and recreation amenities that we have in the city, and it's provided at no cost to the taxpayers. Our request is to draw on the 100% permissive tax exemption. The question is, do we provide the services that fit the city criteria? We feel that our operation does provide the services to fit the criteria as shown in the handout that I brought in.
Yep.
We are a nonprofit society, so all of our revenue goes back into the operations, updates, and improvements. We need to be competitive, so we adjust our fees as needed. We know that the youth are our future, so we focus on attracting youth with low fees and new programs. We draw on community support when needed. We offer additional activities to increase public support. Our volunteers provide time and funding to ensure we maintain and improve the facility. So the savings that we hope to see with the tax exemption will supplement the work that the volunteers are doing. So thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Is there any other discussion? You got to put your, Councillor Apolonio, did you want to?
Good morning, Paul, and of course, Jack. Yeah, I just only want to raise, how about, for example, there's a suggestion if you'd like to make the, since the winter is long, can we make the grounds like the greens like Christmas Wonderland during winter? Is that possible? So at least it can attract more visitors, not only from Dawson Creek, from also from other cities. Like I think Forst and Jen is doing this like Christmas Wonderland. So I think that's a good idea, or maybe not. I'm not sure. So
We've had very brief talks on some that way because I just took over running the golf course here September 1st. Mm-hmm. So in talks, because I was talking with Rotary, you know, we have the sleigh rides and stuff, and we say, well, can we do sleigh rides? And I don't know, we probably can't do that. But we're definitely looking at trying to do some kind of major event around the snow, and that's a good thing I can put under advisement talking with my group. So,
thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Apolonio. Any other questions? No?
Yeah.
Councillor Parslow?
Well, I'm not sure if my colleague Paul emphasized enough the one thing in a conversation with Paul that I just like to emphasize. It's pretty amazing if you look at the list of groups who benefit from fundraising activities that are often part of tournaments. As an example, this year, the Child Development Centre was a beneficiary of one that the Dawson Creek Sportsman's Club. So often there's a great opportunity. It's a great synergy between having a tournament and also facilitating fundraising activities of many organizations. So Paul does make that in his listing here, but I just wanted just to add to it that there's many groups do benefit, and it's it's just great. It's a great community, makes for a great community. Thank you.
I can refer to the Oilman's golf tournaments, which we haven't had a major golf tournament since before COVID, but when we did, our fundraising, would go to $30,000 to $50,000 for a tournament. And the requests that we get for donations, Child Development Center is a big one. Somebody needs a special piece of equipment or something, like a chair or something, they're $3,000 or $4,000. Like those are huge costs, say. But we get requests from a lot of medical stuff where, kids have to go to the city for medical reasons and stay there and to support that kind of thing. Youth sports, the requests are just endless. I mean, there's so many of them. But that's a spin-off that we don't consider. I mean, we look at what the golf club actually does, and the spin-off with having the venue there for tournaments, the money that's raised for those tournaments, you don't consider it, but it's huge. I don't know what it would be in a year, but I'm estimating that would be over $200,000 if you cumulative, eh?
Yeah, I agree. I think that, the golf course is so much more than just a golf course, right? It's, it brings so much more to our community. And, to me, this is what builds community, right? As organizations like yours that, are just about doing what's right and making our community and our region a better place. And that's what it's about, though. That's why Dawson Creek is such an amazing community and city and so many amazing people, is because that's what we're about. So, yeah.
I'll just add one more in there I didn't talk a lot on our junior program. We're going trying to get into the Peace Country Junior League again. So then we'll be hosting tournaments for all the junior programs, Fort St. John down to Grand Prairie and stuff, which is really exciting. Maybe back on the BC amateur side of things too. With the Special Olympic athletes, one of our wish lists that I have on our grant is trying to get a fully motorized golf cart that you can put a wheelchair in that you can slide out and hit. That is definitely a wish list, and that's something on our radar, but we're just trying to work with that. So,
nice. Jack, when you were mentioning about the youth, I didn't catch the number, but I know that this year the youth program took off quite a bit more. And when I was out there a few times and seeing it, there was a lot of youth there. So is that, how many
we went from 13 youth last year to 87 this year, with more joining in September because they saw it and they went doing that. We had 19 playing the Mile Zero. 19 or 20 playing the Mile Zero tournament was really good. We had one Special Olympian play in the Mile Zero too and did very well. His first time ever playing 18 holes, and he shot very well. So he's excited for the provincial and that whole program I run on the other side that I do with the bowling and stuff like that. So we're excited on that side of the business too. But yeah, our junior program really jumped. And for $118, where can you take your kid to? You drop them off, they come on their bikes, they learn all the rules. They're very great kids. They're all dressed. They look impressive. It was just really nice to see that exuberance, and it's really lifted the course, right?
Yeah.
So
no, I agree. Thank you again for, not just coming in here, but just for what you guys do. And Jack, I don't know how you find time to do this now, but I know what you do with the Special O as well. And, I got the privilege to come hang out with you guys for a little bit, and it was pretty unbelievable to see. So also thank you for that and what you do there. I know you do it just because it's giving back and doing what's right. It's not about recognition, and I know how you are. So just, a real true, deep thank you to you guys in the organization. And yeah, and we'll deal with the permissive tax in 8.1. So I don't, when it comes up, I don't know if there's any other questions around it. The ask clearly is that you guys feel that you're in the 100% exemption, and I think that's pretty clear. So, yeah. Oh, Councillor McDonald, did you?
Sorry, I don't have a question. I just wanted to join my voice with His Worship and Charlie there, just to say congratulations on what a great year. Compared to a year ago, the golf course is on such an amazing trajectory right now. You guys have some great new leaders in there, some great volunteers. Being able to hear about the association with the Special Olympics, moving forward, the youth, even the Women's League, it is all great information. And that is truly so nice to hear, and I congratulate you all on a great year. Well done.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Perfect. Thank you, guys. Yeah. Nice to see you in here too, Paul, again.
Yes.
Does it feel different on that side? Yeah?
I don't recognize some of the people on the staff, for example.
Yeah.
Introduced myself, he said, well, I'm tapped.
Changed.
I never remember.
You guys.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
All right, our next order of business is 2.2. We have Karen Whitford, Executive Director, and Christina Regaletti, Campus Kids Daycare and Attendance regarding permissive tax exemption application. So, welcome. Did I pronounce the last name somewhat? Yeah, okay. Not even close, but pretty good. Yeah.
Good efforts.
Yeah. Well, welcome, ladies. You can just push your button on your mic. Yeah, so welcome, and then, the floor is yours, so.
Well, thank you for having us. I would like to we're from Campus Kids Daycare, and we're part of the board for presenting, and we would like to, ask for also an exemption for we had sent in our application, was submitted on July 31st, 2023. We are a nonprofit organization, and we serve Dawson Creek area located on the Northern Lights College campus grounds. Our philosophy at Campus Kids Daycare is to provide a safe, secure, healthy, learning, inclusive environment for the children each day. The center provides spaces for children at this time for over 90 families in our community. And we are in the process of expanding, and we will be able to provide over 100 spaces by the end of 2023. The daycare has programs for children from 5 months to 12 years old, and the Campus Kids Daycare has been able to grow the daycare in the past few years from 1 program to now 4 programs, with the support of Northern Lights College and the funding from Ministry of Children. Parents, young single parents, and students face challenges raising children each day, and this includes returning to the workforce and having daycare for their children. By daycare providing and creating permanent childcare spaces, it provides security for all parents to continue working and planning to work in the future. This will help to build a strong families and build stronger community. The daycare is an essential service to our community. Through COVID, we were able to stay open and continue to serve for essential workers, such as healthcare workers and RCMP. At this time, the daycare has a staff of 20 in the center and will continue to grow with our expansion. The daycare provides practicum positions for students studying for the early childhood education, and in return, the daycare has benefited from hiring many students that complete their courses. This helps the daycare to provide the highest level of care for our children. Stated in our lease agreement and Campus Kids Handbook, it states, Section 3.13, preference to college students and staff. In consideration of Article 1.5, the tenant will give daycare and childcare preference to the following order. A, full-time students of Northern Lights College. B, full-time staff members of Northern Lights College. C, part-time students of Northern Lights College. D, part-time staff members of Northern Lights College. And E, the general public. The college student and staff count at this time is 40 and continues to grow, and the community count is 52. There was a checklist provided from the BC assessment from 2016 to the college to answer. It states answering yes to one or more of the questions, 7 to 11, tends to indicate that the third party is either not an occupier or is occupying this space on behalf of the college. Number 7, the question was, does the college pay the third party for providing a service to the college would otherwise have to provide? Answer, yes. Students, staff, priority for childcare. Number 9, is the third party one of several persons entitles who has the right to access and use the space? Answer, yes. College has access to space at all times. Number 10, does the college retain strict control over access to the space and how it is used? Answer, yes. This space only used for childcare operations. I would like to emphasize the importance of maintaining the financial stability and how this could have an impact on the future of the daycare and the benefits of the families, college, and community the daycare provides for. I'd like to say thank you for giving us this opportunity and to listen to and to consider the exemption of the property of the taxes that would be paid for each year that we lease of the building provided for childcare located on the Northern Lights College campground.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I will open it up to council. Councillor Farzo, you can put your hand first and then push the button. You can go now. Oh.
So, thank you. I have a few questions, and so there's a letter in your package from Andra Graf,
Yes.
and I think you referenced that a little bit. So I'm just confused because that letter would indicate that you would be exempt. That there's you should not be subject to any property taxes.
Yes.
So, are you paying property taxes?
No, we have not.
Okay, so you have been. So why are you here if you're not paying property taxes? Were you given a tax notice?
Maybe I can clarify too, is they had the checklist that was sent from BC Assessment, which then triggered them property taxes because of the lease they've held with the college. So before they were tax exempt, but now because of this letter, they're now put in the in a different category, I guess. So they have to apply for the permissive tax exemption now.
Yeah. BC assessment.
That's why they had the questions included in there too. Those questions
Yeah.
were what triggered them to be through BC assessment.
So those questions were asked in a subsequent correspondence.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Okay. No more questions.
Thank you. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship. And I had a question along those lines as well. So you've had a lease agreement with the college since 2016, and 7, 8 years into that agreement, BC Assessment has decided you're now taxable.
That's what they have. They sent a letter, not to us directly, but to the college,
Okay.
stating that we needed to then come forward and present of coming for an exemption.
That, sorry, this isn't a critique of you. It just seems on their behalf somewhat arbitrary to decide 9 years in, you're now in the tax roll, even though you're still on college property, and presumably there are other activities taking place by nonprofits on the college, which would, I when I first moved here, I used to attend Toastmasters in the continuing education building, and they're a nonprofit that you pay fees to. So does that building now become taxable as well? So it kind of confusing to me. It must be very frustrating to you, but thank you for coming here today to speak with us.
It's been a real learning experience, I can say that, and figuring out what all this comes for.
Yeah.
So, and I do understand it a lot.
Okay.
More to what is expected and what is wanted. So, but by us being on the grounds, and we are actually, I'm going to use it in the word, which might not be the right term, but working for the college for this. So our lease, we do lease the property, but we are giving them what their needs are to be meeting with that. So then now with the assessment, so what's happened is we have expanded onto part of our program, and the government has given a grant to Northern Lights College to build these 2 extra rooms.
Okay.
And then this is where when they put out the building permit and then have come through to do the assessment.
Because you've got a new building.
Exactly.
That's what triggered it.
Okay. Is it, so it's non-profit, right?
Yes.
Non-profit, okay.
I think Kevin has a.
Oh,
So through your worship, I was just going to clarify, what typically triggers this is building permits. Because of the expansion, building permits, BC Assessment gets copy of all the building permits. They now know something's happening, and that's kind of how we got to where we got to.
so because this is on a college property, Kevin, which is, exempt for, is this the only process for this? Because is there other implications when it goes this route? And then if we were to grant the permissive tax exemption, does that cover all the taxes at all different levels? Because there'll still be some that will be, the taxpayers of Dawson Creek are going to pay a portion of, which we wouldn't for the rest of the college because they're under a different class. So is there a different avenue this should go if we feel it should be?
So through your worship, if council was to determine that there was a level of exemption for this, it would be the same as every other exemption where we would be exempting not only the municipal portion, but the other portions as well.
Yeah, I understand that, but is there another avenue to take because it's on college property? Because we don't pay the other portions of the other college buildings.
Correct.
So is there a different avenue the college could take so it saves the taxpayers of the city a little bit, or is there a different way? I don't know how that works, so.
Yeah, I'm not familiar either. I think that if it's deemed that through the lease agreement that they hold with the college, that they are to pay property taxes, then the only process is the one we have in front of us, which is the permissive tax.
Okay, thank you. Was there anybody else that, Councillor Parslow?
So I'm getting more confused about this one. So campus kids, you are now required to pay property taxes based upon how your response to a questionnaire. You've been notified that you're going to be paying taxes. Is that right?
Yeah, so we were not directly notified, and that questionnaire was given, that was what the college goes through. I'm assuming when assessments need to be done. And what I guess they had asked for was the leases, and they wanted to see them all. And then that's how they determine what is to be taxable and what's not.
Okay, so to staff here, let's take the daycare that operates out of the Calvin Truett Cultural Center. That building is tax exempt. The whole building is tax exempt. I'm just trying to draw a parallel. So the daycare program at Calvin Truett Center uses a facility. I assume there's a sublease for that group. Why would they, if this group is not exempt, has to go this permissive tax exemption route, why is that other group or any daycare anywhere, if it's a not-for-profit society, right? I mean, I just don't get how, or let's say you've got a school, the former Park Hill School, whatever it's called, a Mountain Christian School, maybe its name is, and they subletted a classroom for daycare run by a not-for-profit. What would trigger it all? I mean, schools and colleges and city-owned facilities are exempt. So
I'm assuming, you know, on the KPAC Center, it's a municipal-owned building, so it's tax exempt. The college is owned by the college, so it's tax exempt.
It's owned by the province.
But then they, well, by the province,
Yeah.
but then they have a third-party lease to another provider, which is triggering this, is what this is.
So how,
Because it's different, a lease that we have with the KPAC is different than a lease that they would hold there. Is what the, Councillor Earl?
I mean, I do agree with Count. This does seem somewhat arbitrary and contradictory, and like they're opening a can of worms. And I'm not sure what the implications are. I know, you know, this is the first time this particular organization's appearing before us, and I don't know that when we were crafting the updated policy, we accounted for something like this. It does seem curious that a nonprofit that is separate from the college, but it is an entity that the college obviously sees a lot of value in insofar as it helps them retain and recruit people with childcare needs, and it offers those services to the broader community. I guess through you to staff, Your Worship, is there any follow-up or explanation from BC Housing, or BC Assessment, pardon me, as to what policy exactly is being cited here and what the implications could be for other similarly positioned? Because, you know, Tremblay just started up a pre-K program through Success by Six in a couple of their classrooms last year, and I guess they're still under the umbrella of School District 59, but, you know, if you follow the logic of it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So through Your Worship, a can of worms would be appropriate. There is a number of examples throughout the community that you guys have just cited. The only reason that this has come to light is because they are building a new building and a building permit has been taken out and BC Assessment gets the building permits. So they've become aware. So that's how it comes to light. These other ones that you speak of maybe haven't taken out building permits, so they haven't become aware, and they just simply don't go looking. But when they become aware, they make a determination. They have those checklists that they go through to determine whether this is something that they're, in this case, would the college be providing this anyways? If they are, it appears that they wouldn't be paying taxes. But if it's something that is another group that is running on the college property that the college wouldn't do otherwise, then it appears that it may be taxable. And so that's how we've gotten to where we've got. That's the only reason is the building permit process. BC Assessments become aware. These other ones, they just haven't had that trigger.
It seems arbitrary. Anyway, thank you.
why.
Sorry, I won't keep beating it into horse.
Would I be able to add?
Yeah, for
We
sure.
have been on those grounds for well over 25 years. And like, I do understand that the permit would trigger it, but we are still attached. Like, they added it on to the building that we are attached to and that we do put it out to. And that they are part of the ones that applied for the funding to also get this building to be built. So it's not something that we will even ever be part of for the rest of, just when we're leasing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand that, yeah. Okay. Yeah, kind of a tough one, right? Like, it's, when you've been in it for so long, I completely understand where you're coming from. Is there any other questions? No? Yeah, so, I mean, this will definitely come back later today, and we will go through this, and I understand the ask is for 100% because that's the way it's been. So yeah, so I don't know if there's no other questions. I'd like to thank you for coming in and presenting to us for sure. And it was definitely nice meeting you, and also thank you for what you do. I've heard a lot of great things about the daycare, and the college in general is an amazing asset to our community. So thank you very much. So
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Thank you for
Have a great day.
hearing us.
All right, our next order of business is late items. Tab, any late items? No late items, no? Okay. Next, new councillor business, 4.1. Councillor Apolonio regarding the crosswalk flashlight at Northern Lights College on 8th Street. And I know you do have a proposed motion here. I was just maybe going to mention before, because 8th Street and Alaska Avenue are not city, they're not city ran, they're provincially ran. So even to put a motion forward to have us go to that, we can't do anything with it. So it would be more if we felt, that we wanted staff to look into this with the province, that would probably be more the motion, Councillor Apolonio, because, so I just wanted to kind of touch on that before we got to this, so, but yeah. Yeah, the mic is, yeah.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good morning, everyone. So I just only want to send this motion because I just only received several inquiries or concern especially from students, especially international students who came to Northern Lights, and I think you read the memo because it's kind of long. So I'm just only submitting it just for awareness of the issue and request that staff look into the matter and coordinate with the Ministry of Transportation if necessary to assure the safety and protection of pedestrian crossing 8th Street. So the proposed motion is that Council directs staff to conduct a study of the feasibility and logistics of installing a flashing light crosswalk across 8th Street in the Northern Lights College and report finding back to Council.
Do I have a second? Second time, do I have a second? Councillor Earl? So I think did you want to speak? Councillor
Yeah,
Earl?
I was just, am I seconding the motion on here? Or
Well, that's
the-
what was read out, was that
Okay,
motion.
yeah. And that
So-
was, like, as you said, it's a provincial highway, so staff's, looking into it and asking the province to do this work, correct? Through you to staff, sorry.
Yeah, and I guess this wording could be that it's, just looking into it. I think the other part is we want to be, I guess from my point of view and ours, is we got to be careful in how much work we put our staff into doing. Because one, if you look at that said area, like there's, at the Safeway corner, there's lit walking pedestrian lights that were just installed for that. And then there also is at the next main intersection. And then there's also a crosswalk in the middle. So I don't know, like, if staff would think if they were to take this to the province, if they would put another light in. But seeing what's already there, I personally wouldn't see them going for another one. Because there's already two on both corners plus one in the middle. So I don't know if, Kevin, if you have anything.
So through your worship, maybe there's maybe a couple of different ways you could go about it. One is obviously, there's been some concerns brought forward about it. So if council wants to move that concern forward and let the ministry know that there's been concerns brought to you as a body, then I think certainly could send a letter to the ministry expressing the concerns and asking if there's anything that they could look into doing and require the ministry to get back to you and provide some insights. So that would be one. The other, and that's probably the most, probably the best route to go. The other would be just to direct staff to reach out to ministry staff and ask the question. I suspect if we do that, it will be a shorter response. It will be more so there's lights, half a block one way or half a block the other. But if you want it on record that it is a concern of council's because it's brought forward, then maybe a letter from council to the ministry, stating that you've had concerns brought forward, and then you're curious if there's any possible upgrades that could be looked at.
I like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Apolonio. I just need hands in order, you guys. Sorry. So, Mike, did you want? Okay. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Worship. I was just going to make the same comments as yourself, right, with traffic lights, just a block one way, traffic lights a block the other way, plus a crosswalk in the middle, wasn't necessary anymore. But the CAO suggestion of making the concerns on file, I think, is actually a very good idea. And just a simple, easy way to get our concerns put out there and see if there is an actual solution needed.
I agree. Yeah, thank you. Councillor Apolonio, can you just shut your mic?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Earl.
So I'll go for that. What would be the best step moving forward? An amendment or to defeat the motion on the floor and put forward a new motion?
So
I see
through-
Tab nodding.
Through your worship, yeah, you do have a motion on the floor, which was the original motion in the memo.
Okay.
The cleanest way would be to defeat this
And then
and then have a new motion.
New motion directing staff to reach out to the ministry and register our concerns.
We'll deal with this motion
Okay.
first.
Cool.
Any more discussion on this motion? No? All right, I will call this motion. All in favor? Opposed? It's defeated. All were opposed, Tab. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll put forward a motion that we direct staff to reach out to the Ministry of Transportation to express our concerns and see if they can offer any solutions.
Do I have a second? Councillor McDonald? Any discussion on that? No? All right, I will call that motion to vote. All in favor? And opposed? It's carried. All opposed.
All in favor.
Or all of four, sorry. I was just checking to see if you guys.
Take away his buttons that he's lost.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Next order of business 4.2, we have Councillor Apolonio memo regarding four-way stop near Tremblay School.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this is a small read, so I will read everything. So background information, our citizen has recently raised concern for the safety of students, residents, and motorists in the Tremblay School area. Currently, there are stop signs on 15th Street that give right-of-way to the traffic traveling on 115th Avenue. The intersection borders Tremblay Park, Tremblay Elementary School, and Tremblay After School Care. Upon discussion with the citizen, I proposed that the city place stop signs at the four corners of the intersection of 15th Street and 115th Avenue. My proposed motion is that council directs staffs to assess the traffic intersection at 15th Street and 115th Avenue and create a four-way stop to improve traffic safety near the Tremblay School. Respectfully, Greg.
Do I have a second? Councillor Earl, any discussion? I guess mine, maybe just to staff, Kevin. I know we've had some of these requests come through for stop signs, and we've seen more for lights and stuff. But obviously, it's people's concerns, so we want to listen to them and take them. But we're not professionals in directing you on traffic flow and in proper ways. So, I guess what's your opinion?
So through your worship, I'm familiar with the intersection, although we haven't, gone out and done traffic counts or anything like that, obviously at this point. The stop sign, it sounds like there's concerns of speed. So that there's a belief that a stop sign will control the speed. And yes, it will force somebody to stop at the west end of the property, but the school is on the east end of the property, so I'm not sure that may have the desired effect on speed along 115th in front of the school and the playground. Stop signs are meant to regulate traffic movements, not traffic speeds. If there's a concern of speed, then you really get into maybe some other traffic calming measures, which there's a whole suite of things that could do. Typically, they require some capital investment. Usually it's median and something, a narrowing of the roads or something in the middle of the road to force people to want to slow down. Signage typically doesn't cause people to slow down. I understand the ask because it is, of course, it's easier to put up and it's less expensive to put up a sign. It's not best practice because it typically doesn't end or provide the result that people are looking for, is what we've seen.
Okay, thank you. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Has there been any, just something I've seen in other municipalities that has seemed to be pretty effective, but they put in speed bumps. Is that something that I know in the winter, there's obviously issues with that, but it works.
Yeah,
Right,
so through your worship, agreed. I suspect speed bumps would work. I think, I know Councillor Parcels asked for many years about speed bumps in various areas of the community.
I mean, at Maya Poos and Grand Prairie, they have speed bumps. They're very effective. Take them up in the winter. The ones in Poos are unscrewed.
Yeah, so there are some that you can put in temporarily for summer and put those down. There's some options. I do worry about longevity through the winter if they're permanent ones, and just how we plow snow with graders, it'd be a little tough on them. I would hazard of just ad hoc putting out speed bumps. I would want to have a bit of a thoughtful process and policy about where they would go, because for instance, you wouldn't want speed bumps on an arterial road like 116th, which is meant to move traffic. Although there might be speed concerns, it's not how you would manage speed. So you'd need some thought behind where it's applicable and how, the process to actually put them down, if that was something that we wanted to explore.
Yeah, okay, thank you. All right, is there any other discussion?
Darcy.
Oh, Councillor McDonald?
Through your worship, what are the logistics of doing an actual traffic count? What is involved in doing something like that for us to do the research to decide if there's something needed in that area or not?
So through your worship, typically we don't typically do a lot ourselves. We could certainly get the information on how to do it. Typically engineering companies do, but it involves having a couple people sit at an intersection for a couple of days at different times during those days to get morning, afternoon, evening, and just look at the traffic movements. How many vehicles are going this way? How many are going that way? How many are turning? All those. Then you take that information, and based on that, you can make decisions of whether you need different different signage or whatnot for that intersection.
And what is the typical cost for that?
Well,
Rough guess, I'm sorry.
Yeah, through your worship, if we were doing it ourselves, it's just staff time for them to sit there and do the counts. Then we have to take the data and just make something out of it. But yeah, I mean, like you said, staff time. So you might be, you might be a couple $1,000 all by the time you're done. $1,000. It depends on, if we have to engage a third party to analyze the data that we have to give us some recommendations.
I think the other hard part about that, Councillor McDonald, too, is the staff time. It's not necessarily the dollar value. I know that does come with it, but I mean, we've already got a real lean team, and to add something, not saying this is wrong, but to add anything to them, it's already,
absolutely.
it's tough. So. Okay, I guess for me on this one, I understand it for sure, and I'm not downplaying how some people might feel that there's speed there, and I'm not against that. Like that, that's people's feelings and what they see. The tough part is if that one's on on a street that's got two dead ends, like it does have some other traffic besides, but most would be local. If you start doing these on every area in town, like we're gonna. Like Kevin said, stop signs aren't designed to control speed. They're they're there for control of traffic flow. So, yeah, but that's kind of where I'm at on this. So I don't think I will vote in favor just because of that. Any other discussion? Councillor Parslow?
Yeah, I won't be voting in favor because I don't. As a general principle, believe an ad hoc approach is the right one. If we do have concerns about traffic speed, we should do a comprehensive study within the city. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. All right. If there's no more discussion, I'm going to call this motion to vote. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried, or it's defeated. Holy. It was opposed unanimously. I'm going to take a recess for 5 minutes.
Some coffee and some water, buddy?
Sorry for skipping you there, Councillor Earl. Back to order. Our next order of business is 4.3, Councillor Earl memo regarding South Peace multiplex camping fee. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I submitted this in response to a conversation that took place at the last meeting regarding just the seeming increase in applications for no-cost camping at the facility behind the multiplex. I submitted this. I've subsequently been advised by some of my colleagues that they would like to see a couple things changed. So what I'll do is I'll put forward the proposed motion, and then I would invite any of them to amend it in a way that would, I'll just revise it on the spot, and if I get it wrong, Charlie will let me know. Sorry. So background information, you've all got it. So the proposed motion that council directs staff to draft a policy that would charge a fee for organizations wishing to camp on city property behind the South Peace Community Multiplex, to do so with consideration towards a rate of $500 for the entire site, and to allocate any funds raised towards tourism. Does that work?
Thank you. I have a second. Councillor McDonald. Any discussion?
I guess for the public, I'd note that we just simply want to ensure that organizations using those understand that there is a value and that there is potential opportunity costs for other businesses providing those services. So this is how we're trying to, or this is how I'd like us to try and thread the needle insofar as making sure we're not undermining their businesses, and that we're able to support the organizations that do want to use that location for convenience.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Is there any other discussion? No? All right. I think I will.
No, nothing.
And I think, as Councillor Earl said, I think this is exactly what it was put forward to, not to, to affect any of these organizations, but just, for those businesses in our community that are in that business. So, yeah. All right. If there's no discussion, I will call this motion to vote. Those in favor? It's carried.
Look forward to seeing the pause.
All right. Any other new councillor business? Councillor Kemp?
Perfect. Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to mention, I was at a recent COPS meeting, Citizens on Patrol, and I just wanted to mention during the patrols, they have made a list of like 26 streetlights that are out. So I can forward that list if staff needs for those. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thanks, Councillor Kemp. I did see an email come through from one of the councillors to Kevin, but yeah, I think if it was there, so thank you. Any other new councillor business? All right. Next order of business 5, adoption of minutes. 5.1 minutes of public consultation from August 14th, 2023 for adoption. Councillor McDonald, second. Councillor Kemp, all in favor? Opposed? It's carried. 5.2 minutes of the public hearing from August 14th, 2023 for adoption. Councillor Apolonio, second. Councillor McDonald, all in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Next, 5.3, we have minutes of the regular meeting of council from August 14th, 2023 for adoption. Councillor Sudnick, second. Councillor Kemp. In favor? Gotta get used to this. Opposed? It's carried. Any business arising? There's no business arising, okay. Next order of business, 7, correspondence. 7.1, we have a letter from city grant writer, August 10th, 2023, regarding a request for resolution of support for application to the Northern Development Initiative Trust Main Street Revitalization Planning Program. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship. I will move the requested resolution as follows: that the City of Dawson Creek supports the grant application to the Northern Development Initiative Trust Main Street Revitalization Planning Program for a grant of up to $20,000 for the planning phase for the creation of a downtown revitalization strategy for the City of Dawson Creek.
I have a second. Councillor McDonald. Discussion. Councillor Earl, did you want to speak to that?
No, I think this is work we've identified in our strategic planning as part of one of our priorities over the next 4 years. So if we can peel off some funding from other levels of government to help support it, all the better.
Thank you. Councillor Parslow.
Obviously we need to consult and engage. I'm all for that. But the problem I have with this sort of thing, which we do a few times each year, is we get somebody in, let's say Urban Systems, and let's use as example the Mile Zero Park revitalization effort. We provide no bookends as to the scope of the work, and we get a proposal in, everybody does their dreaming, and we get something in that, let's say, $8 million. And there's no hope in Hades that we can possibly do anything really incremental on that. So I appreciate many aspects of what's before us, but I'm really just nervous about, again, having another study that we know is beyond our fiscal capacity. And should we not have some more of before we do this, have some targeted discussion, a focused discussion amongst ourselves as to what are we really trying to achieve here, and what is the possible resources over a period of time that we can put to this. Otherwise, it's just going to be another thing that just gathers dust. And we've wasted $40,000. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Kevin, did you want to, I wasn't sure if this was just because it was applying for this, to have it in our back pocket, or if, because, when you do, like what Councillor Parslow said, we don't really know what our plan is downtown, so to invest money doesn't make sense, I guess, until we know, but I just wanted to see where you were at.
Right. So through your worship, we became aware of this opportunity, and it, we felt obviously it aligns nicely with the strategic plan, which speaks about revitalizing the downtown and tourism in a number of aspects. So we thought we should apply and take advantage, and hopefully we're fortunate. I think if we're fortunate enough to get the grant, then we could certainly develop a scope terms of reference for what we want to do, and maybe that will address, as Councillor Parslow said, provide some bookends. I think it is important to have realistic expectations when you go into these planning processes, because yes, you can end up with something that is, you create a level of expectation that you can't fulfill, which is worse than having a lower level of expectation that you can. So I think step one is let's see if we get the grant. Number two, then let's maybe along with council, we can shape out what we want to see and the scope of it, terms of reference perhaps, and go from there.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Parslow.
Yes, I like what staff just said. If we apply for it, but before we do anything, let's have some, when I say amongst ourselves, I meant staff as well, not just the elected officials. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Parslow. Thanks, Kevin. All right, any other discussion? No? I will call this motion to vote. Those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Next order of business 7.2. Email from City of Quesnel received on August 8th, 2023 regarding Quesnel Highway 97 North-South Interconnector Project request for support. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just gonna pull forth the motion here so we can open this for discussion. I lost it, I'm sorry. I'd like to make a motion that it be resolved that the City of Dawson Creek supports the Quesnel Highway 97 North-South Interconnector Project and requests the province proceed without delay to the functional design phase of the project.
Do I have a second? Councillor Camp.
My only concern with supporting a motion like this, I know the Taylor Bridge is in desperate need of replacement, and do we fear supporting something in the region of Quesnel and Caribou is actually going to hinder something that is much more needed in our region through our support? That would be my only question in supporting this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I appreciate the City of Quesnel reaching out. I'm not sure whether this is really in our wheelhouse. This is something that strikes me as maybe a resolution that would be best brought to NCLJ or UBCM, or as I did in May, presented to the Provincial Budgetary Committee, at which point I, on behalf of the city, and a sentiment that was echoed by the local Chamber of Commerce, advocated for the completion of the twinning of the highway between Alberta and Fort St. John, for instance, and things like Taylor Ridge and rail infrastructure. I think that might be a more appropriate avenue for pursuing these kind of notions. Having individual cities write you letters of support, I think that's kind of what UBCM exists for, or NCLGA. So that would be my concern. It obviously the elected officials in Quesnel feel like this is vital to the interests of the community, and in that respect, I don't begrudge them that. I just don't know that this is the best way to go about it. That's my thought.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Any other discussion? All right, I will call this motion to vote. Those in favor? Opposed? It's defeated. Councillor Earl, do you want to receive for information?
Okay, I'll move that we receive this letter for information.
Do I have a second? Councillor McDonald, any discussion on receiving for information? No. All right. I will call this motion to vote. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Next, 7.3, we have a letter from Raistlin Van Spronsen, resident of Dawson Creek, received on August 30th, 2023, regarding a request to improve bus stop infrastructure. Kevin, I don't know, before we get to this, I don't know if you wanted to speak a little bit. I know we just had a presentation from BC Transit on their bus stop facilities. I know we're also reviewing transit, so I don't know like if it's worth addressing and investing when it's all up right now. So I don't know if you wanted to add anything before we.
So through your worship, Raistlin is correct. We do have a number of stops that are not built out like some others. We don't have bus stops. Some are simply just a sign on the edge of a road, somebody's lawn, in the boulevard. What they're asking is, or what he's suggesting is that all those particular stops should be built out with, at least a concrete pad at a bare minimum, maybe a bench, things like that. I think it would be premature to commit to anything like that, and there's significant cost associated with that. I don't have the number of those particular stops off the top of my head, but I know it would probably cost us in the order of $5,000 to $10,000 at each stop to go in, properly landscape, do a concrete pad, put benches in and do it up properly. So the greater question is, yes, just where are we going with transit as a whole before we start to make, capital, investments in it. So,
Yeah, that's one of the things I was thinking, just because there's been so much talk around the whole transit system as a whole to make a decision in one direction before knowing the end picture, right? Is tough. So, okay. Is anybody willing to? Councillor Parslow.
I move that we receive this for information.
Do I have a second? Councillor Sudnick. Any discussion on receiving for information?
Well, I just, as staff just said, this is like putting the cart before the horse, right? I hate to see wasting taxpayers' money until we know what we're doing.
Yeah, I agree too, and I think receiving it for information from me, I mean, the only thing is I would just like to let them know that we've heard this and listened to it. We understand it, but until we know where we're going, it doesn't make much sense to invest, so.
I assume it's responsive, writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Councillor McDonald?
Sorry, thank you, Your Worship. That was just going to be my suggestion, is that through you, that we have staff respond to Raistlin, appreciating his insight, and explain to him just exactly the steps the city is on and in regards to transit right now.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Councillor Earl?
Just with respect to that, do we have, with respect to the review of transit and whatnot, do we have a tentative timeline or when we expect to start being able to put some information and some definite answers to this so we can, you know, I share the, I don't want the receive for information to seem dismissive because that's not necessarily fair to him, but I do, you know, if it's going to be a 2-year turnaround, we should probably let him know. I don't anticipate it being that long, but.
So through your worship, we're going to have some discussions about some alternatives here this fall, so September, October. You know, and look at if there is alternatives. We need to make some decisions on what that could possibly look like. But we'll engage Raistlin because we had kind of committed to, well, we had committed to him when we chatted with him last that we would involve him with some, you know, discussions around transit because he is a champion for that and certainly can provide some insights for us as well on what that could look like. So.
Okay, thank you for that.
Agree, thank you. Any other discussion? All right, we'll call this motion to vote. In favor? Opposed? It's carried. Next, 8 reports. We have 8.1 report number 23-140 from the Financial Service Manager regarding 2024-2027 permissive tax exemption finalizing participants. So I think we'll have one main motion here and then there's multiple ones in here. So Councillor. Councillor Parslow? Could you push your button, please?
Do you want to bump 8.1 forward as it relates to this matter, and we decide on our response to the presentations before we proceed with this, or should we defer this until after we've made that determination under 8.1 where it's currently located?
Well, I did let the presentations know that we would deal with it under 8.1 because
Right,
it's on our agenda.
So
we're
in
dealing
this,
with it
we've
right
got
now.
embedded in here some, so for us to deal with this report, we need to make a determination about our response to the Dawson Creek Athletic Association. And what are we going to do about this daycare?
Well,
you see what I mean?
in this report, there's one overall recommendation, and then there's going to be multiple
Yeah.
recommendations.
Yeah.
So we're going to deal with it.
Now?
Yeah, right now. 8.1. I don't think why. I'm not sure why, unless you wanted to hold off.
No, I'm all for doing it, just as long as you're fine with that.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. Would there be anything wrong with me doing it? Yeah. Okay. All right. Sure, if you were setting me up there or something.
I
around the
would
village.
never set you up, ever.
Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I probably should have mentioned this to Tab before, but since the last meeting, I've been asked to join the board of the South Peace CDC. So when they come up moving forward, I'll be stepping away due to a conflict. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Earl. All right. Would somebody like to make a recommendation?
I'll make the recommendation if you want me to.
Love for you too, Councillor Parslow. Could you please go ahead?
Well, this is one of my favourite all-time topics on council. So the report number 23-140 from the Financial Services Manager, read 2024-2027 permissive tax exemption finalizing participants be received. Further, that the following be included in the draft permissive tax exemption bylaw.
So do
South-
we need a motion for that one now, or we'll just do one? We don't need to read that out individually, do we?
Through you, Chair, through you, Mr. Mayor, that, yes, you would
Okay,
read them
we'll
out
read out
individually,
Okay.
but we can include them in one recommendation moved by Councillor Parslow.
No, I'm just meaning the first part on the recommendation. Do we need to read that out each time we deal with?
No, all of the future recommendations that you're going to read today will be included all as one, as it says that the following be included in the draft permissive tax exemption bylaw.
Right.
Okay. I was under the understanding we were going to deal with these individually, though, like the golf course individually,
Once you deal with them individually, they will be added in.
Okay, gotcha.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Parslow. You can continue.
Sorry, can I continue?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. Okay, South Peace Health Services Society, that the South Peace Health Services Society be approved for the 2024-2027 tax exemption cycle. Further, that they receive 100% exemption.
Okay. Second, Councillor McDonald. So we will now vote on this one, correct? Okay. Any discussion on the South Peace Health Service Society being 100% exempt? No? All right, I will call that motion to vote. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Could somebody grab Councillor Sudnick, please?
So moving on, if
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor
Okay,
Parslow.
Dawson Creek Athletic Association Golf Course - 2100 Hart Highway. Option 2, that the Dawson Creek Athletic Association Golf Course - 2100 Hart Highway receive 100% exemption for the 2024-27 permissive tax exemption cycle.
Can we, if Councillor Parslow is under the assumption that the next three are all golf course, are all going to have the same thing, can we deal with all three at once? No? Individual? Okay.
It would be nice to do them separate, please.
Okay, do I have a
Thank you.
second? Councillor McDonald, any discussion? All right, so I will call this motion to vote. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried.
Dawson Creek Athletic Association Golf Course - 2121 Alastra Highway. That the Dawson Creek Athletic Association Golf Course - 2121 Alastra Highway receive 100% exemption for the 2024-2027 permissive tax exemption cycle.
Do I have a second? Councillor McDonald, any discussion? We'll call the motion. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried.
Moving on, Dawson Creek Athletic Association Clubhouse and Golf Shop. Option 2, that the Dawson Creek Athletic Association Clubhouse and Golf Shop receive 100% exemption for the 2024-2027 permissive tax exemption cycle.
Do I have a second? Councillor Sudnick, any discussion? I'll call this motion. In favor? Opposed? It's carried.
Campus Kids Daycare Society. Option 2, that Section 1B application process of the permissive tax exemption policy be waived. Further, that Campus Kids Daycare Society be approved for permissive tax exemption for 1 year, 2024. Further, that they receive 100% exemption.
Second, Councillor McDonald, any discussion? Councillor Earl?
So as the report details, BC Assessment hasn't even yet provided them with what their taxes would be. So, I mean, this is something we're likely going to either have to push back against them and, get some sort of rational explanation for why something in this, once again, this does seem somewhat arbitrary. And I think as much as I hate to waive a brand new policy, this is also the first time they're appearing before us, and we need to get some certainty or understanding of what the can of worms they've opened is and how that's going to impact policies like this and organizations like that moving forward, because the policy as we wrote it was not crafted to take into consideration that portions of NLC's property were now going to be taxable based on the use.
Yeah, so through your worship, I agree. I think staff will work with BC Assessment to better understand how this can look going forward, because again, unexpected situation with this one. So we'll try and deal with that and get in front of it for next time.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Thanks, Kevin. Other discussion? I guess I just want to, I know it's the whole new permissive tax was, kind of confusing to all of us in this regards to the daycare, including those that were coming in here presenting. So if we're just going to do the 1 year exemption, we're assuming that BC Assessment is going to look at it and maybe just exempt it. Is that something that we need to, write a letter in support to BC Assessment, or let, the campus kids daycare know, or?
Yeah, so through your worship, what I see is coming out of this, we'll reach out to BC Assessment and try and understand where they're going with this and ask the questions of why now and why, again, this daycare has been running there for many, many years, as was indicated. And again, understanding whether because if they're going to exempt it from their side, then we just need to know where this is going. And again, it just clears it up on our end. If they're not, then this will be back in front of you next year for you to make another decision.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Councillor Earl?
And if this were something that BC Assessment were going to hold the line on, might it be worth advising Northern Lights College that the society might be more advantageous if they were a community advisory committee that was just an extension of NLC as opposed to its own individual society, which would presumably, now that they're under the NLC umbrella, put them back in the exemption status.
I think so.
Okay, thank you. And a year gives everybody time to figure out what the next steps are.
Thank you. All right, I'll call that motion to vote. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
BC Drain Producers Association, that the BC Drain Producers Association application for permissive tax exemption be denied for 2024.
I have a second. Councillor Earl? Discussion?
Can I ask a question about that?
Yes, go ahead.
Why wasn't that phrase 2024 for the 2024-2027 tax exemption cycle?
So through your worship, we could certainly include that, or you could include that in your motion if you wish. Just an oversight.
Staff oversight.
I know.
So can I make that as a friendly amendment?
No, I'd like to just have some discussion on this because I've seen
Okay.
some other councillors wanting to discuss first, and then we can go from there. So, Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Your Worship. And on the same as Councillor Earl not wanting to waive a brand new policy, I do feel that the BC Grain Producers Association should possibly get a smaller permissive tax exemption, maybe a 50% for the next 3 years, just based on we are an agricultural community. We are an agricultural region. In our tour, finding out just what they were doing in helping the research and development, whether it be learning about how much climate change is affecting our grain growers and our agricultural area in general, trying to fight an ever-changing climate, whether it's man-made or natural or not, the climate is changing. to help them continue to have a healthy food supply for our region, for the world, period. I see great value in that, in our community, in our region. You know, we've had a provincial ag minister come out and say that for our agriculture in BC to better themselves, they just need to plant better seeds. That is not a very supportive comment coming from a provincial minister. But unfortunately, a research and development site like this will help them find better seeds to continue to provide a safe and reliable food source for us in an ever-changing climate.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. I would just like to add too, I agree with what Councillor McDonald said. A few of us did get a tour of the facility and to learn really what they do. And I know directly, you know, our city and municipality maybe doesn't have agricultural land in it, and we don't, you know, get that revenue, but we're an agricultural community. And what this organization does for the future of, you know, those farmers and those producers in our area is substantial. And it's a complete nonprofit organization, and I didn't know really that they were here, nor did I know what they do until I went and did it, you know, had a tour. But there's a direct benefit to our residents that are, you know, in the agricultural industry. And for that, you know, I also believe that we need to have some percentage of exemption for them. They built in Dawson Creek because it was a tax exempt facility. So this is going to put some strain on them. And, you know, I don't know if 50% still puts strain on them, but that's a number that I'd be willing to support as well. So in that, I'm going to vote against this motion for those reasons. So if there's any other discussion.
Yeah.
Councillor Parslow?
Well, so you're proposing that we waive our policy. Is that correct? So have you had a visit with the BC Truckers Association, who are also being affected by changes in the fossil fuel costs and so on, and its impact?
I haven't, no. Do they own a building in Dawson Creek?
Oh, yeah.
And pay taxes?
Yeah, I believe they do. It's that, you know, where the old gym was, I used to go to it, on...
Physiques?
Physiques, yes, Physiques.
They're in there.
I mean, I don't know.
I didn't know that, so yeah, I mean, it's all...
Yeah. Anyways, so...
did you have more, Councillor Parslow?
No, you should vote on that one.
Okay, Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the tour as well, and I appreciate the research component of what they're doing, and I think from a public interest standpoint, that would be if there were a justifiable tax exemption, that would be what would justify it. It is, however, still largely funded by businesses for, similar to, as Councillor Parslow said, a professional association doing work on behalf of the members of that organization. And, you know, if the Chamber of Commerce doesn't qualify with their building, or the Truckers Association, I mean, once again, it's just a matter of precedent. If we want to revise the policy, I'd say we should revise the policy, but, and I really don't want to because we just spent years going back and forth on this. And while I appreciate the work they do, it's not, I don't know that it's justified. And if we were to waive it, then I'd imagine, to Councillor Parslow's point, we'd then have to end up revising it in order to accommodate those other member nonprofits that are, you know, essentially, does it benefit the community? Yes, but it is, their main goal is to benefit their members, which are for-profit businesses.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. I appreciate that. I think that maybe is registered with me. I mean, that's a tough one when you bring that in, so I think yeah, I will change what I said. So I appreciate your insight, and that's why this is important to have discussion. So thank you. Councillor Parslow?
Yes, concerning the chamber, I just want to be transparent here. And I don't want to, I'm feeling bad if the chamber withdrew their comments based upon a private conversation I had with somebody who works for the chamber, and the rationale for why the BC Grain Producers Association was denied. And then I've, then just a sidebar conversation with you when I talked about the BC Truckers Association and its office. I do not know if that office is owned by them or leased by them. I want to be transparent about that.
No, that's
But to me, again, I know that Councillor Earl's comments resonate with me, and was one of the reasons we denied the BC Grain Producers Association. If we're going to open it, then we've gone through all this work, and we're waiving the policy and criteria and inventing it at the table here, which is the antithesis of what we should be doing. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. All right, if there's no more discussion, I will call this motion to vote. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor McDonald was opposed.
And just, sorry, one point of clarification, Your Worship.
Yeah?
Just on the option or the motion, it was just for the 2024 year, correct? We didn't end up amending it for the, okay, good.
Yeah, it was actually, sorry. Yeah. Go ahead. Oh,
I'm just wondering procedurally if we're perfectly aligned with so our staff omitted it by.
Can you push your button, please?
Oh, yes. Staff, it was an omission, and I thought I said I would want it, I proposed it be modified then. And I assumed that the motion included the same language we had before, where we used the expression the 2024-2027 permissive tax exemption cycle. Now I'm hearing that we just voted on it as it was presented. So we need to resolve that significant dichotomy.
So through your worship, I did say it was an omission, but something also to consider is that if you deny it for just 1 year, they obviously have an opportunity to come back next year and reapply. So council can do what they wish on that. If you were to include the 27 into a subsequent motion, that would deny them for that period of time. But
Tab, just to you, if we did want to include the 2024 to 2027, what is the procedure right now?
Through you, Mayor, it would be to reconsider, and the chair can reconsider the matter.
Councillor Earl.
I was just going to say, and also is there, I guess, yeah, you can specifically go out of your way to say you're denied for 3 years consecutively, but they're not a part of the program, so you're essentially preemptively denying them in future years, even if they do, as the discussion we had around the golf course at the last meeting about what they could potentially do to revise that exemption qualification. I think if you do it for a 4-year block of time and shut them out no matter what, what's the incentive for them to come back a year from now and say, we're now doing this, this, and this, which creates the value you were looking for. So I voted with the intention that we hadn't amended this motion for what it's worth, and it was just specific to the 2024 year.
Okay.
For clarification purposes, through you, Mayor, there wasn't a unanimous decision to amend the motion. The mayor indicated no, therefore we did not proceed with an amendment.
Thank you. All right, our next order of business is 8.2. We have report number 23-136 from the Financial Service Manager regarding request for proposal 2023-18 financial audit services. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation that report number 23-136 from the Financial Services Manager regarding request for proposals 2023-18 financial audit services be received. Further, that the contract for $153,450 be awarded to Sander Rose Bone Grindle LLP for a 5-year term ending December 31st, 2027.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Kempf. Any discussion? I'll call that motion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next, 8.3, we have report number 23-139 from the General Manager of Development Services regarding a request for quotation 2023-23 solid waste and recycling. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to recommend that report number 23-139 from the General Manager of Development Services regarding a request for quotations 2023-23 solid waste and recycling be received. Further, the Council award request for quotations 2023-23 solid waste and recycling to GFL Environmental Incorporated for $3,540,444 plus GST.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Sudnick. Discussion? Councillor Parslow?
So the work that the Bear Society does, is that in one of the details presented under Section 4 Financial, the curbside waste contracts? Is that the Bear Society work where they have the team of people checking recycling? Is that one?
Through your worship, no. Those contracts are, curbside waste would be the actual contract for the contractor to pick up garbage. The curbside recycling is the contract for picking up the recycling containers. The work that the auditors do for us, we have a contract with them, and it is funded through the money that we receive back from Recycle BC
right.
as part of being the part of the program.
Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion? No, I'll call this motion to vote. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Next, 8.4, we have report number 23-137 from the City Planner regarding overdose prevention sites in Dawson Creek. Sorry, Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will move the recommendation that report number 23-137 from the City Planner regarding overdose prevention sites in Dawson Creek be received for information.
I have a second. Councillor McDonald, any discussion on receiving for information?
Yeah, I guess for the public that may be viewing online, the reason for this report is, I think, to give us some additional information as we prepare ourselves to head to the Union of BC Municipalities next week, as this will likely be a hot topic on the tongues of municipal representatives across the province. In addition, we will have opportunities to engage with our provincial counterparts in a number of ministries. And this is, as I noted, an issue of great concern and continuing challenge for us. So thank you to staff for putting this together for us. I've got plenty of thoughts on the information I've read, but for now, I guess we're just receiving for information.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I wanted to thank you as well. I think it was also put together because there was multiple motions and discussions throughout this year. So that was just compiling all this information, and it's not about just receiving and putting on the back burner. It's this is all helping with, what today's world and what we're doing moving forward. So. Thank you. All right, any other discussion on information? No? I will call this motion to vote. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Next, we have 8.5, report number 23-142 from the Fire Chief regarding Fire Department Structural Protection Unit, SPU. Councillor Kemp?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation that report number 23-0142 from the Acting Fire Chief regarding Fire Department Structure Prevention Unit, SPU, be received for the Council approve, including a structure protection unit into the city's 2024 capital project. Budget,
Second?
pardon me.
Oh, sorry for cutting you off. Councillor Kemp, do I have a second? Councillor McDonald? Discussion? Councillor Kemp, did you want to speak to? No? Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Worship. I was just wondering if we could get some more clarification on where would this fall in a priority of equipment that the department feels is necessary for them to help keep our residents safe in the future.
Kevin?
So through your worship, could put Todd on the spot and see if he wants to, do you want to speak to it?
Welcome, Fire Chief.
Good morning. Thank you. Through your worship. To be honest with you, that's a good question. It's one of those things that I feel would be a valuable asset, but it's one of those things that you don't need it until you need it kind of thing. So there's a potential that it may not be used, but in some of our subdivisions, Briar Ridge, South Dawson kind of areas, those heavy populated kind of subdivisions that do have that threat of heavy trees, that kind of thing around. If the need comes for it to be used out there, it would be a valuable asset. I think it's one of those things though that as a priority, I mean our aerial truck is due for replacement here fairly soon and that kind of thing too. So I don't have an honest answer for you as far as how, if we're going to need it or not. It's one of those things that if we do, it would be nice to be able to implement it.
So through
Thank
your
you.
worship, too, just to add to that is, a bit of the process of what we do from a staff side is these requests, put in the hopper, so to speak, and then we sit down as a group and vet them and have these very discussions about, okay, where does this fit within your priorities? Is this something you need? Oh, the ladder truck needs to be replaced. We need to look. So we have those discussions internally as we go through the budget process. So even if this gets moved to the budget, we still might come back to you and say, okay, we feel a priority is a different item. So this one has kind of fallen, out for this year. But if council wishes to, move it up, could do that. We'd make you aware of that. Another item to consider with this is that, right now this is a BC wildfire responsibility. And so it's a decision, it's a form of downloading in a sense. It's a decision that we need to make whether, on a year like this, if we were to need it today, are they available or are they already tied up in places like West Kelowna and unavailable? Don't have those answers, but this is why this has started to become a bit of more of a talking point, is because of what's going on around the province as a whole. So as Todd indicated, may never need it. But if you do need it, if you only need it once, it will have paid for itself. So that's really the tough decision.
Councillor Earl, and then Councillor Barslow.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. One or two questions or comments through to staff. So the PRD is currently working towards upfitting an SPU for the area that will not be deployable through the BC Wildfire Interagency Agreement. So that's, they'd want it exclusively for our region and it wouldn't be, don't want to share their toys?
Correct. Through your worship. So they're looking at doing it over a 5-year span where approximately $50,000 per year going towards slowly kind of implementing this. And that is the idea, that it will remain in the Peace River area. To our best of the discussions we've had to date, that is the plan. But where it's going to be located, as far as, you know, Charlie Lake, where it's situated. We don't really know yet. The availability, if they do, you know, say use it in Charlie Lake, for example, for it to be, you know, packed up and moved on, it's one of those things that, I mean, you kind of roll the dice if you're going to have two incidents at the same time, or availability and that kind of thing.
And then, I mean, and with respect to your previous answer, and you're mentioning Briar Ridge and some other subdivisions of Dawson Creek that are technically within the fire protection area, but outside city limits, it does give me cause to think that this might, if it was going to be downloaded from being a provincial responsibility, it might be better situated within the wheelhouse of the PRRD if they wanted to do that, given that the areas we're talking about are specifically rural. It's difficult to your point, right? Because you certainly want to make sure that you guys have the tools you need to protect the area. And as the face of fire threats in BC changes progressively over time, and we're dealing with more wildfires, and we're dealing, you know, certainly if there's a fire out in Briar Ridge, that impacts us. I am concerned, and it's a long-standing concern about how we as municipalities sometimes get ourselves, get in over our heads with our obligations in wanting to do the right thing. And you unintentionally enable other levels of government, be it BC Wildfire Service or the RD, to abdicate their share of the responsibility. And that's one of my concerns with something like this.
Thanks, Councillor Earl.
So through your worship, there, you know, as Todd indicated, the chances of there being two incidents at the same time, you know, what one would think there'd be fairly remote within the region, but you never know based on what's been happening. But, and you're right, it's probably greater chance that it's going to be an interface in the rural area, even if it's within our response area. There might be something to explore there then, as where if the regional district's looking at, you know, going to save up and fund this over 5 years, maybe there's a partnership to be had where we don't buy our own, but maybe we contribute X amount of dollars towards the purchase of it with the understanding that we have access to it if it affects our community. Could be a discussion that could be had. Again, it goes to your point of we don't have to have not everybody has to have everything. We can look at shared resources. So maybe that's an option too. Just throwing that out there.
Councillor Parslow.
Yeah, I was sort of...
Councillor Parslow.
Yeah, thank you. I was at the regional district meeting where this was discussed, and ownership of these units was a critical part of the discussion, because with the reality of a new dynamic, which we've been warned about as it relates to the incidence of fires and becoming an increasing issue, and the nature of those fires being so much more intense that some firefighting techniques have not need to be modified. Anybody who's read the book about the Fort McMurray fire and what was learned from there, really, it's alarming what firefighters had to adapt to. And then talking to my daughter, who is officer in charge at the RCMP in the Kelowna area during that fire, the experience of firefighters, it was a new reality. And so having such a unit was a persuasive argument that you own it, you control it. If it's a provincial asset, they control it. And the discussion that, as I recall it, was that it was important that our fire departments, and I remember that Charlie Lake was cited in the discussion, that if they were not using it, but we had a need, then they could loan it down here. But the reality is that fires could pop up anywhere. And we maybe as a group need to have our own. So that there's a number of these in the Peace region. As it relates to priorities, yes, it was a very good question. I like those sort of questions as well. But just a reminder that we have, as a council, have made a decision that we're funding this ladder truck through a funds that we did have set aside for all the work and good work that was done by the city as it relates to the flood mitigation. That money has been set aside to be accumulated over time so that we have a good amount of money for that. So this is just a matter of being ahead of the curve, being proactive, but it's set in the backdrop of a new reality that we need to have new paradigms around how we fight fires and how Canada as a nation is prepared to deal with this issue. And there's some serious discussions around having like a federal force of some sort of 50,000 people. I mean, this is something else now. We're not operating with the old way that fires. Fires always burn hot, but when you hear that firefighters in Fort McMurray, there's no point firefighting a house that's engaged. You went 6 houses down the road before the heat would enable the water to actually get to the building without vaporizing. And how with drought, these trees, alders, which we always thought would be a slow-burning thing, now just explode because they're so dry. It's a new reality. And sure, the most likely, as Todd said, is the interface in those areas within our fire protection zone. But it can also, as you know, wind. We do get a lot of wind in the Peace Country. And when you hear of embers traveling 3 kilometers and igniting fires, we better. A fire that happens at Bear Mountain can quickly leave an ember in Kin Park, and then where are you at, right? We're all in this together. So it's a matter of ownership, it's a matter of control, and it's a matter of developing increased capacity to protect our communities.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Is there anybody else at discussion? I had some around this. I mean, obviously, I understand what's going on. And I appreciate what the fire department does. And the other side of this for me is that it is BC Wildfires, like Kevin said, that looks after this. If we were sitting, real plush and in great financial shape and had all new equipment, I'd probably be more in favor for going down this avenue. But because we're not, and we're in a different position, and I know there's other capital projects, I'm leaning the other way for a couple of reasons. One, BC Wildfire, this is their responsibility. We've had the most fires we've ever had province-wide. Federal, provincial are looking at different policies. I don't feel we should be even going down the avenue of spending funds while they're doing that. The other part is our neighbors experienced this firsthand. And within hours, BC Wildfires were there. We sent support there as well. And they had these sprinkler systems set up that evening in a province that was burning up already. So already, in the midst of needing a lot of that equipment elsewhere. So with that being said, and then what's going on provincially and federally with the wildfires and the way the climate's changing and them looking at the bigger picture of it and how they support, I know that this motion is just about getting it in the system to look at it, but at the same time, I want to respect staff's time, and we have a strategic plan. There's direction that we're going, and there's only so much capital funding. So for that, and then, you also take into the consideration that most of the rural around here is in the regional district, in our fire protection, and they're looking at a unit already. that's already one more unit that we've had up here. We had no units before, and it worked. I know that you can't predict the future, and I respect that. But yeah, I just don't, and then with you saying, Fire Chief, that there's some other equipment that we do need, and I know that there's a list of things that are up there, right, that you guys need to operate safely, and that would be a priority to me. So, with all that and all I've heard, I think I would vote against this going to budget. So, but yeah, that's where I stand on it. So, if there's any other discussion, I'll call this motion to vote. All in favor? Opposed? Sorry, opposed? It's defeated. So everybody was opposed except Councillor Parslow was in favor. Thank you. Thanks, Fire Chief. Next, 8.6, we have report number 23-143 from the Fire Chief regarding UBCM Community Emergency Preparedness Fund 2023, paid on-call firefighter, PPE, and pagers. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation that report number 23-143 from the Acting Fire Chief regarding UBCM Community Emergency Preparedness Fund Grant 2023 paid on-call firefighter PPE and pagers be received. Further, that Council directs that one, the paid on-call firefighters PPE and pagers project will be added to the 2024 capital plan in the amount of $63,600. Further, the Council endorsed the Cities of Dawson Creek's application to the 2023 Union of BC Municipalities Community Emergency Preparedness Fund Volunteer and Competent Fire Departments Equipment and Training Funding Stream for $30,000 towards the paid on-call firefighter PPE and pagers project.
I have a second. Councillor Sudnick, discussion. Did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so I is great. I guess I have the chief here. It's good to hear that we're adding to our capacity in that respect. How many? It says we're looking to outfit 12, and that's replacing existing gear, new gear on top of what we've already got to complement, or?
Correct. So we've got some gear that for our career firefighters, when it gets to 10 years of age, we have to take it out of service as part of NFPA standards. So we've held on to that gear and outfitted some of our paid on-call staff with that gear. They can train in it, but can't be put in a hazardous environment. They need gear that's 10 years or
less.
More current, yeah. So we just brought on 8 new paid on calls, so looking to outfit them in current gear, and as well, we've got a couple more that are in expired gear. So we're short on pagers as well for those, for that staff. So that's the first line of contact is through 911 dispatch. So yeah, basically updating them with new gear and proper PPE so that they can be used in hazardous environment if needed.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. I just had one question to you, Kevin, through the chief, if you want. Just the paid on call and volunteer, is it two separate things? I guess maybe I just need some clarification because there's, in the summary, there's talk of volunteer fire department and firefighters. I know we've been back and forth on that, and then there's the paid on call.
Yeah, so through your worship, it's kind of been, those terms have been kind of thrown out for years of volunteer, auxiliary, paid on call. Yeah. We've always kind of ran with the composite model of it is a paid on call. They are compensated for their time when they train and when they respond to incidents. So that is the correct term, it's paid on calls. Auxiliary departments are purely, or volunteer departments are purely volunteer. So the correct term for our fire station is paid on call for that staff. Yeah.
Thanks for clarifying. Any other discussion? No. All right, I'll call this motion to vote. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. I am going to take a 5-minute recess. So, be back to order. Next order of business was 8.7, report number 23-145 from the facility manager regarding invitation to tender 2023-15 art gallery front entrance upgrade. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to move the report number 23-145 from the Parks and Facilities Manager regarding invitation to tender 2023-15 art gallery front entrance upgrade be received. Further, the council award the contract to Hagee Construction Limited or the sum of, I think this will say for the sum of $550,500 plus applicable taxes.
I have a second. Councillor Earl. Discussion. Oh, excellent news. Oh, Councillor Earl.
I was just going to note for the public, this is a request put forward by the sole attendee of last year's public budget consultation. And lo and behold, he's getting what he asked for. So this is democracy at work. And I would encourage people to show up to future meetings.
That's dangerous.
Any other discussion? Okay, I'll call this motion to vote. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. You weren't opposed, right?
I'm in favor.
Okay, thank you. Next, 8.8. We have report number 23-134 from the Chief Administrative Officer regarding strategic priorities update. Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to move the report 23-134 from the Chief Administration Officer regarding strategic priorities update be received for information.
Have a second. Councillor Kemp. Discussion on receiving for information. Councillor Parslow.
The Truth and Reconciliation section. I mean, I really appreciate the approach that the mayor's taken. Absolutely. But I just think that we need to put our heads together and think about how we can have an impact, not just in the relationships that we might have with chief and councils of First Nations and Indigenous organizations, but have an impact so we have a better grasp of the whole initiative of truth and reconciliation within our community as a whole. And how will we do that? And how can we develop a pretty dynamic strategic action plan with some of the other key stakeholders, just such as Northern Lights College, the school district. So I applaud everything that's been done, and I know that will be continued. Don't get me wrong, I'm not critical, I'm just saying there's so much more to be done. And it is a complex topic, for sure. And so I believe that we need also to have, as I intimated, over the downtown revitalization, at some time we need to have a discussion around that. What are we working towards? What do we hope to achieve? So we have some, if you like, more meat on the bone. I just think we do need to just get together again and really flush out. I mean, one of the key things for strategic planning for me is you have a strategic direction, which has been given, and I applaud it, okay? But what is that how do we know that we've achieved it? What are some indicators of success? And for me, without that, I know I can't operate. I need I need to know, what is it? What are our indicators of success? And so I'm just saying that I think we need to revisit this. So I thank Kevin for the report. There's, I think Council dropped the 70-30 and replaced it with 60-25-15, which is something that you might want to update in your report. And the two things that I worry about is the truth and reconciliation and building stronger communities in that, and it's a difficult topic. But good legwork has been done. But let's continue it. And the others, I would really like to have some good discussion about it. So thank you. I'm not criticizing what's been said here. I'm just saying, to me, we need a lot more in-depth discussion.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. I have a comment too, but I agree with it, and I guess I get the benefit to communicate and work with Kevin every day, so I get to see. But I do agree that it would be nice, maybe, we did a strategic plan, which I believe in, right from my core, that it's about who we are as a group and not just on this. I felt like the staff was involved too. It's a team thing, but yeah, it would be nice maybe to have a day in the fall where we could get together and just kind of get a refresh and, maybe just some more dialogue around or answer any questions that, we need some clarification on direction and maybe set some goals. And, like Councillor Parslow said about the truth and reconciliation too, like that, it is a big education piece. And we've done a lot of group as a council, educating, ourselves and the team. All of us have. So yeah, I kind of, agree too that I appreciate this for sure. And the direction that the team and yourself are going, Kevin, I really do respect it. And but yeah, it's kind of where I'm at too. It would be nice maybe, I don't know if that's a committee of the whole or just a separate day. I'm not sure how that works, but maybe something we can talk about. Perfect. Any other discussion? No? All right, I'll call this motion to vote. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next, 9 bylaws, 9.1 bylaw notice enforcement amendment bylaw number 4560 2023 for consideration of adoption. Councillor Earl, second. Councillor McDonald, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next, 9.2, we have report number 23-144 from the Development Service Manager regarding referral comments for zoning amendment 23-05, bylaw number 4569, 2023 for consideration of third reading and adoption. The recommendation. Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to move the report number 23-144 from the Development Service Manager regarding zoning amendment 23-05, bylaw number 4569, 2023 be received. Further, that zoning amendment 23-05 bylaw number 4569, 2023 be given third reading and adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Sudnick? Any discussion? All in favor? I'll call this motion to vote. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Next, 10 Mayor's Business, 10.1 Mayor's Updates. BC Grain Producers Association Building Tour. So we had the BC Grain Producers in here. Correct me, I believe it was Jennifer. That was her name.
Okay. Yeah.
Was in here. And sorry, Jennifer, I was just wanted to double check. But yeah, we had a tour of the facility. Well, one, they came in here as a delegation, and then I already had an appointment to set up to go for a tour and put it out to council. And I think there was 4 of us that were there. Got a tour through their whole facility with their 3 team members. It was pretty neat seeing, actually, and not really knowing that they are here or what they do for the area. It was definitely beneficial, and just more for my own knowledge and learning. And I can't speak for all of council that were there too, but I felt like it was pretty good and lots of learning. So I just wanted to thank them for that. Next, seniors roundtable. At a seniors roundtable, this was a couple weeks ago, and I've been doing a few of these roundtables and youth meetings. But when I originally came into this role, a lady approached me about some other municipalities that do roundtables with their mayors, and so that's where it came from. Was her idea. She actually put it together. I think there was, I can't remember offhand, 10 to 12 seniors that were in the room. I had no idea who was coming. Just went there. It was really open discussion. There was no agenda. Was just really listening. And like I said to them at the end, this hour and a half I had with them is probably the most that I will learn all that week, because I just listened. It was really amazing just to hear, and it wasn't just about senior initiative stuff. It was about all sorts of things in the community. I felt like they thought there was some value in it too, just having those open dialogues, back and forth. So it's something that they wanted to do again. So we're going to do them every couple of months and see where they go from there. But I just wanted to thank, the folks that came in and took the time to meet with me, and it was amazing just to listen and hear. Right, I don't live in those shoes, so it's nice to be able to to hear from them what's working, what's not, and it wasn't negative. It was just a lot of constructive criticisms. There was lots of positive things. It was just overall it was really good. So. So with that, I've had a couple other roundtables as well, but we had a youth meeting in the spring there was 20 plus different youth providers in our community that directly impact youth and work with youth. So we've kind of discussed maybe moving more towards this roundtable with them as well. So I have a meeting, I think it's in October, and we've sent an invite out to the original. I can't remember, there was 25 or so, about doing something similar as a roundtable, just to get youth together, to open up that communication between us as a council and our community, and just really, be there to listen. So that one's coming up in the fall as well. Next, Northern Lights College, I had their international orientation was last Wednesday, I believe, or the week before. But they had over 100 international students. They have 3 intakes a year. But I got to go down there and spend some time with Scott and Todd and a few from the college, and just really be part of that orientation, welcoming. That day there was 100 international students that within 24 hours to a week have just moved to Canada and Dawson Creek. So what an amazing opportunity to welcome them into our community and show them, who we are as a community, and to be part of our community, and that we're here for them, and we want to learn their stories as well, and we want them to be part of our community. We have a very, diverse population in our community, so it just adds to it. And it was really great. It's the second one I've got to attend, and it's an honor to go there and represent Dawson Creek and talk about all the things that there is in Dawson Creek and all the amazing, positive, great things in our community. So it was amazing. BC Housing, I had a call with David from BC Housing. This was probably 3 weeks ago, and then he was going on holidays for a bit, so he's going to get back to me. But in a bit to regards to his presentation to council and the questions that were asked there, I was looking for a bit of an update on where those questions were. So he's having his team put that together, and we don't have that yet. So once I do have that, I'll share it with everybody. And also, we've had a lot of citizens reaching out about the BC Housing facility, my home downtown, about, a lot of areas around it, lots of concerns with the daycare, the school. I've had, myself, Kevin, all of this council has probably had a lot of discussion around that. So just had some discussion, around David with, what their plan is. They're in the middle of a new operating partner is going to be coming in, which I don't know if they've announced yet. I haven't heard. But yeah, so I expressed all the concerns that I've heard from everybody that's sitting at this table, from anybody that's reached out to myself or Kevin. I discussed all those with David. There's some issues that they have because of the type of facility they are, and then falling under the BC Residency Act. It ties their hands a little bit on some things that they can do. So they've put it out to the ministry to revisit where they sit in the Residency Act. So I've got that information, something that when we're at UBCM, we can speak to that a little bit when we're meeting with ministers next week. That in some areas, it makes it difficult. I know there's other facilities in British Columbia that are very similar, that have similar struggles. I had a meeting with one of the managers from one of them last week, actually, around this whole Residency Act, just to understand it a bit more. And it's something that is getting brought up at UBCM next week. So it'll definitely be at front and center next week and with the ministers. So, but I mean, that's really where it's at. I'm still waiting for a response to the questions we asked. He did commit, saying that they're working on them and getting back to us. I do know that, they deep down, they want to do what's right too, and they want to help. They want to, help those vulnerable people that are out there, that they want to make our area a better place all around. So it's about how do we do that together, and where there's areas that are working, let's move those forward, and whether there's areas that are not working, let's talk about those and let's move forward. So yeah, that was kind of the gist of the conversation, and I'm sure we'll be having another one shortly. So but yeah, that's all I had for mayor's updates for now. Any questions to me? No? All right, I will go next. 11, CAO, Chief Administrative Officer Operational Updates.
Good morning, thank you. So through your worship, just a couple quick things. Update you on the budget process. So right now we are senior staff's compiling budget information and getting that into finance. We will be bringing forward a budget assumptions report soon for council, just that initial report to set timelines and kind of those initial assumptions, and then get some direction from council from there. So we'll should see that relatively soon. Capital projects, still plugging away, as you've probably seen. I think right now with our road projects, we are waiting for some subcontractors to show up, our concrete guys. But things are moving along. I think middle of September, we should see that, and things will speed up again once that contractor's in place. Other than that, I've been away for a week, so I'm back at her. So any questions on anything I can answer?
Just one, I know you sent out an email about a new team member on your side, and I know there's a couple in here. I don't know if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I think most of council have met.
Yeah.
A few, but.
So we have Stacy Waitman, who's here with us today, new General Manager of Operations. So, yeah.
Welcome, Stacy.
So, yeah, happy to have her. So we're getting our team built, and I'm pretty pleased about that.
Yeah, I'm happy for you and the team. So it's great to see all these pieces come together. So yeah, some great people. Is there any questions for Kevin? No? All right. Thanks, Kevin. Next order of business, 12 diary. I think there's anything in the diary. No? 13 consent calendar. A motion to accept the consent calendar. Councillor McDonald, second. Councillor Earl. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next, 14, 2023 strategic priorities. 14.1, 2023 strategic priorities. Do you have any more? I know you gave a bit of an.
So through your worship, I mean, obviously I had the report at this meeting, and I think yeah, you'll see those updates in there. Also planning every quarter to provide a more formal update to council. And I'll give some thought to, what we discussed during the report on strategic priorities about how it could look about just unpacking each, maybe of those focus areas a little bit more. See what that could look like. So we'll see whether that's committee of the whole or something, but something we can talk about.
Okay, great, thank you. Other discussion? Oh, Councillor Parslow, sorry, I didn't see your light on.
No, this is just my hand's not up.
Your light's on.
Is it? Oh, must have been on for something.
You are testing me today.
I'm used to change, right?
Yeah, I've only been doing this for a little bit, and I'm not used to change. I've been thrown right off today. Next, 15 media question period. There's no media here. 16.1, resolution to move into the meeting of council closed to the public. Agenda items 2.1 and 3.1, section 90 minutes as previously noted. Agenda 5.1, section 91C, labor relations or other employee relations, and agenda 6.1, section 91I, the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Have a motion, Councillor Earl, second, Councillor McDonald. Thank you. I don't know, I think, should we see if lunch is here, we'll have lunch. If not, we'll go right into closed and just stop when. Okay. Everybody's good with that?